the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are artist Alan Jones and musician Francois Chouchan. Artist, sculptor Alan Jones was born in Southampton, England, and raised in London. He was educated at Hornsey College of Art, the Royal Academy of Art, and taught at the Croydon Art School. He was elected a Royal Academician in 1986, and after serving 10 years as a trustee of the British Museum, is now an ongoing trustee emeritus. His work has been exhibited in the finest galleries around the world, is represented in more than 36 museum collections, and you can see his commissions from London to China. Alan has spent a lot of time in the United States, especially California, where he's currently visiting. Alan, what brought you to LA this time?
This time just friends. I was in New York visiting my daughter, who's just late in life producing children.
That's great.
And, so I went to see my, it's the first boy. I have 3 grandchildren, it's the first boy, and it was high time to see him. He's already now been living for 8 months, which is a hell of a long time. And so having crossed the pond, as they say, to do that, I just thought it was really high time. I stayed on the plane and came over and saw some friends.
You did spend a lot of time in Los Angeles. Did you teach at UCLA?
I did. I first came here so long ago, it's not worth remembering, in the 60s sometime, to have an exhibition at the Feigen Palmer Gallery all those years ago. And then I had a fellowship to make prints at Tamarind. So that kept me here for 4 or 5 months, and started for me a love affair with the town and with the artists here.
I know you're very close to a lot of our friends because we've known each other since I guess you first came to LA, and we were talking with some of your friends last night. We've traded houses with you. You've stayed in studios here, and it really surprised me when I was telling you how to get to Joe Good's studio. Oh yes, you just do this, you do that. You know how to drive, you know how to do everything around here. So we're here to find out about your art. You're labeled as a pop artist. What does that mean, and do you feel you're a pop artist?
Well, I think it's a bit like asking Matisse late in life whether he was a fauvist, you know. I mean, it's one of those things that happened, and certainly that was the moment that I came on the scene, and the penny was dropping for me. I always had a feeling that pop art was really an American manifestation, and I think its toughest examples were American, without any kind of a doubt. But you know, people make a lot of mileage and not say money out of analyzing these things, kingdom come. And it is true that the word was first used to coin the work of 2 elder statesmen of the English art scene at that time, who were Richard Hamilton and Eduardo Palazzi.
They were called pop artists?
That was the first time the word was used by Lawrence Alloway in some magazine or other. And a very famous show in the mid-50s called This Is Tomorrow, in which these artists posited the idea of the urban environment of the future. And I suppose it was sort of post-war period, and everyone was still looking to the idea of some kind of utopia.
You were painting then, right? Or were you making sculpture at the same time?
At that time, I was at art school trying not to be Walter Sickert.
You didn't want to be.
So really 1960 for me was the magic moment when I went from the regular art school to the college, Royal College, and that was because it was a postgraduate school.
Oh, I see.
It brought together the talent from around the country, and so by chance our particular class was Dave Hockney and Derek Bosher, Ron Kitai, who's of course an American, but was there on some sort of GI grant. Of course, at that time, it wasn't a case of thinking this is pop art or this ism or that ism. It was just that you knew out of the group of everyone who was around that these were the only artists that of the group that you thought were cutting the mustard.
Were you painting?
Painting.
Now, we talked about the Royal Academy and that you were an academician. Is it true, and I haven't asked you this before, were you expelled from the Royal Academy?
In fact, you keep saying the Royal Academy, it's Royal College.
Royal College,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I was.
You really were?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, then how did they come back to you and make you give you this lofty title?
Because it's a different institution. One's the Academy, one's the college.
I got it. Okay.
But
thanks for differentiating that.
the thing is that I avoided national service for one reason or another, but someone characterized it to me. They said, when you join the military, they say, someone has to join the military police section, and they just say, you volunteered.
You volunteered.
And so, in a way, my expulsion was simply the staff who were really teaching Sickert, Walter Sickert, and kind of, that post-impressionism painting. And they suddenly had this a bunch of people who plainly were on some other track. And we all just thought we were trying hard, as a matter of fact. But, and I think they put a pin in the list, and it happened to be me.
I see, because I had never heard that before.
Right.
And I was getting the two schools confused.
And I don't want to hear it again.
And I don't blame you. So as a Royal Academician,
yeah,
they're very stuffy and staid, no?
It was. I mean, every institution is as good as its membership. It doesn't matter what the building looks like.
But the building is great.
But when I was rung up by an English artist called Michael Rothenstein, who was very, very well established older artist at that time. His brother was the director of the Tate, and he rang up and said, if you were put up for the Academy, would you join? And I was sort of, there was a certain, what's the word, schadenfreude, because at that time the people running the Royal Academy were all the faculty who had thrown me out of school.
That's what I was wondering.
So I thought, why not, you know?
So it was perfect.
There's another thing, and that is you realize that it's not going to change the world or really your art in any way. But since that time, the Academy has really changed its membership, and it numbers everyone, of course, from Dave Hockney and Anthony Caro and Norman Foster. Frank Geary is an honorary academician. Ed Rouchet.
Yes.
I mean, it's a terrific place, and of course, it's one of the great exhibition halls in Europe.
I know, it's beautiful.
Mainly, what the Academy was established for in the schools was that the academicians basically funded the schools.
Oh, is that right?
And so the Royal Academy schools, which is physically in the building, the money raised from shows and all the rest of the stuff essentially is to fund the schools.
Oh, I see. One year we went, it was an exhibit of your drawings, and then they had a lovely dinner for you afterwards, a small private room.
They do
that well.
Very
beautiful.
That's right.
They do it very well. Okay, we got pop art established. What about erotic sculpture? I mean,
I'm looking for it.
Do you think it's so erotic? Because I think you were the first one doing that well-established exhibition type of, as they say, erotic sculpture. I think it was all subliminal, a lot of it, to me.
You're hired, it is. You're right.
Except for the, what were the furniture.
I'm glad. I'm very glad.
Are you glad about that?
Yeah, I'm glad.
But
I'll take anything.
But the paintings are very subtle.
Yes, that's right. Well, I mean, it's, you know, I do think that there is a clear difference between the American art of my generation, the pop artists, and the Europeans. And the thing is, without getting too heavy about it, that the European tradition remained very strong, and none of those artists, I'm speaking as though it's in the past, and a lot of them, of course, are still very much around, but they didn't dump illusion in the way that American painting.
Is that what the difference was, do you think?
I think it is. There is an illusionism which is just inherent in all the paintings, whether talking about a Pat Caulfield or a Richard Hamilton or Polozzi or me. Now, against that, I always thought, of course, it looked very tough, the American painting, but whether it's Lichtenstein or, I was going to say Tom Wesselmann or Rosenquist, the fact of the matter, well, Rosenquist most likely slightly different case, but it was interesting to me that I always thought that Roy Lichtenstein's paintings looked, in formal terms, exactly like Ellsworth Kelly. It's just that one happened to be describe a woman's face.
Right.
I didn't.
Well, just tell us a little bit about that furniture, because I think that was the first year we met you, and you were moving that furniture around. It was a hat stand.
Yeah, there was
a table.
Well, I mean, there was the mainstream of contemporary, not to say avant-garde art in that time through the 60s was towards abstraction and minimalism. And if I constitutionally couldn't go in that direction, it's just a part of one's makeup. I don't know how that is. It's possibly a disadvantage, but who knows. But figurative art was in a kind of cul-de-sac.
Yes.
And you know, with Lucian Freud at the apex, you know, and and if you were wanting to deal with the figure, all that weight of kind of old tradition was sitting there, and for me, the idea of, you know, I was brought up in the city, and the idea, I suddenly realized that commercial art, magazines, newspapers, and so on, were a source of looking and dealing with the figure outside the academic tradition. And so when it came to my paintings through the 60s, especially after living in America for several years, got harder and harder and more pneumatic. And in the end, I thought, listen, I'm trying to make these figures real. What am I doing painting it? I ought to make it. And so I didn't have particular skills in working in modeling in clay. I didn't want to make something that was about the expressionism of making the surface.
Yeah, that's what Bob Graham was doing.
Yeah,
he was
so I hired a professional, a commercial artist who worked for Madame Tussauds and loads of...
That's how you got the figure.
And so I basically art directed the figure, and it was important to me that it wasn't about my ability to make or not make something. I wanted it to be outside of that. And the other thing was that I made the first figure, which was a standing figure, like so. And when I saw it finished, I realized that actually someone looking at it could think that maybe I'd got hold of a window mannequin and it was a sort of slightly surrealist thing.
Yes.
And I didn't want, it wasn't about surrealism, I didn't want that connotation. So I thought, well, if I make it look as though it's useful.
I see.
And so the figure, you know, I'd seen in some little erotic magazines, there were the idea of a figure being a table was a nice idea.
But on all fours, right?
So the figure's on all fours with a glass slab on the back was a table, and then the chair was a figure sitting, laying on the floor with the legs drawn up, and you sat on there was cushions, of course,
right,
but you between the back of the legs and the thighs. And then I didn't know what to call the standing figure, so we said, well, it's a hat stand, you know. So
I see.
So that's how they developed.
But it was wonderful. I mean, it was I think a moment that showed what you were doing and how the rest of the world was looking at art in London, I think, or around the world. And I think one of the things, before we leave, because we have to leave, is the idea that your last show at Marlborough was called Playbill, and you continued this. I think it's totally a continuation of everything you've done. But the eroticism on stage, because so many of your works have curtains. And
Correct.
And you have that central figure.
Well, I love that idea that the painting, the stage is in fact, it is an analogy of performance, and the canvas area is a performance area, and so the idea of making a schematic stage.
I think these were great too.
Yeah, you can't.
It's like the men's head is within the woman's thought.
Correct. And there's a funny thing that actually you can't see them both at the same time. You either have to, when you're looking at the picture, even now on this reproduction,
this one,
you either see the relief head or you see the painted apparent image.
It is a relief?
It is. It's in high relief.
A piece of sculpture.
Yeah,
I see,
yeah,
I see.
yeah.
Well, I hate to say our time is over, but all of your work, I went on the internet last night and it was like astonishing, and I'm so glad you came to see us today.
Well, I love the opportunity to be here and seeing you so in your glamorous public persona.
Something that you don't get to see,
Very
knowing
beautiful.
me so well. Thank you. And don't go away. We'll be right back with musician Francois Chouchan. Hi, welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. I'm here with musician, pianist Francois Chouchan, who was born and raised in France. At 11 years old, he entered the Conservatoire National Supérieur de Musique de Paris and has studied with the greats like Ivan Loriot, Messiaen, yes, he has to help me with that, Aldo Ciccolini, Germaine Mounier, Bruno Riguta, and he has a litany of awards, piano competitions. He's taught piano in the municipal conservatoires in Paris and Château and Rambouillet.
Yes, perfect.
And he's played the piano since the age of 5. Was that your favorite instrument?
Yes, it was, yes.
Did you think of playing anything else?
I don't, because, you know, it's such a complete instrument, you know, it's a wonderful one, and I was attracted immediately by this one. Yes.
Did you ever compose when you sat at the piano?
Yes,
I began.
Yes, I began to compose when I was a kid too, and it was just like that, you know, as a kind of hobby. And then, of course, when I was at the conservatoire, I began also to, you know, to learn composition.
Oh, was that when you?
Yes. So I did. You know, when you are at the conservatoire, you have to do a lot of different classes at the same time. So beside the chamber music and the piano, you had also to take, you know, all those writing, composition.
Conducting, do you do?
No, I didn't.
No conducting.
I didn't. But so the composition was one of my favorite things.
You participated in a lot of international competitions.
Yes.
How do you prepare for that?
Good question. It's a tough job. You know, it's really difficult because you have to, as all the musicians, you know, you have to practice at least 6 or 7 hours a day.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, minimum. And then, of course, you have to perform. You have to compete with other really high level.
From all over, right? International, yes.
International. Now, you know, since several years, we have all, you know, the Russian people, which are, you know, who are fantastic and really emotional musicians too.
And I like the way you do this because that's what makes you win the competition, isn't it? The emotion you put in it. You could be technically great.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's, you know, I am a sensitive guy, and I think that most of the people can like in my play is that kind of sensitive thing.
That feeling.
Yes, that feeling that I have and that I can, you know, I try to put inside my music. You know,
you said that you have to practice 6 or 7 hours a day. Do you have to eat certain foods? Do you have to exercise?
I try to exercise almost daily because, you know, it's a kind of really difficult thing.
Does it help you?
You know, it's I don't know, but it's also a kind of mental thing. You know, you have to feel really relaxed and have a kind of link with the outside, because when you practice, you are in your room
by yourself.
by myself, and it's something really, it's something really.
Do you take some kind of a lucky charm with you or anything like that?
No.
No, that's
No.
not. And then how do you decide what to wear when you go to the competition?
Good question. You have to feel really,
Comfortable, I bet.
Yes. So, I mean, most of the time it was difficult for me to wear jacket, because sometimes, for your movement, it's not so easy. But, of course, with time, I did it. So.
You started learning what to wear?
Yeah.
You know, you also performed in a lot of these fantastic halls in Paris, like Playal.
Yes,
Where
Salgavo also. And so now in LA, I arrived 4 years ago in LA, and I have the chance to perform already also at the LACMA, at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, Zipper Hall, UCLA, a lot of
great places.
Yes.
Are you soloist at those places?
Soloist and with chamber music.
When you worked with masters like Nikita Magaloff and Magda Taliaferro, what did they give you? I mean, did you learn something from them?
Of course, there were beautiful masters, and I did it also with Mstislav Rostropovich.
Oh yes, I was.
And Rostropovich, was one of the.
So he played the cello.
He was with his cello, but because it was a chamber music masterclass, and it was such a wonderful souvenir, because that guy was unbelievable.
So chamber music.
Chamber music is something that I love, because you perform with beautiful artists, you share your emotions, you practice with them, and the new chamber music series that I just created in LA is a new concept. I didn't want any stage. I just wanted to have people, the audience, in the middle of the artists.
But it's at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, and it's not on the stage.
No, it's at the 5th floor.
Yes.
And it's a really intimate, space.
It's a nice long room.
Yes. And
I've been to banquets in that room.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
And award things.
Yes.
So you're very
and
close.
That's why people love it, because you are just close to the musicians. You can even touch them.
So you don't put the musicians on a platform?
No.
And how many musicians does it make for chamber music?
It can be, last Sunday it was a string quintet. So we will have a string quintet, we will have piano quartet, I will perform in January the Winterreise, from Schubert, with a beautiful baritone singer.
So, you also?
Yes.
So what does chamber music really mean?
Chamber music is, as it is, the exact terminology is music for, an intimate space. And I took that name, Le Salon de Musique, because it comes from Marie Antoinette,
the
from Versailles.
She used to have.
Yes, she wanted to escape from the etiquette of the court, and she wanted to recreate
the formality.
Yes. So then she wanted to recreate something really intimate and bring some people, not especially from the court, and she recreates something like that. So this idea is to bring people to discover music, but I would love people to discover music with a really different approach, really intimate, really emotional thing.
But it's not intimidating. You come in and we would be sitting like we're sitting now, and where the camera is, you would be playing.
Yes, I mean, but this is chamber music. You have to share everything with people, and then the concept is that the artist will talk with the audience.
Oh, do you do that?
Yes, of course. They share the emotions.
I see.
Their feelings.
I see.
And we talk about the piece. We talk about the composer.
I was going to ask you, who picks the music?
Me?
You pick the music.
Yes.
I know the one of the producers is Bernard Philippe.
Yes.
And does he help in any way like that?
Of course, too. Yeah, we work together.
And then you do it's kind of like a lecture about the composer.
We prepare something simple, but it's really important, to let people know what was, you know, the condition of the composer and when it was composed, and something that, you know, something which is really frustrating for me is most of the time when you go to a concert, a chamber music concert, you have the stage, you have the audience, and you leave after the performance.
Right.
You cannot even, you know, meet the artist.
Oh, so tell us what you do then to do that.
So, I mean, with our concept, there is no wall, there is no stage. Everybody is, you know, with everybody. And this is something really important because you appreciate music totally differently.
But you have champagne. Do you have question and answers afterwards?
Of course.
You do?
Yeah, we do some, you know, short samples before the performance to explain people about
what
the
to
piece.
hear.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then after the performance, we have what we call la conversation, the conversation, and we talk about the piece. People immediately, you know, give their feelings and their emotions, and it's a kind of huge exchange between the artist and the audience.
It reminds me when you say salon, because you do have hors d'oeuvres and drinks.
Yes.
And afterwards, is that when that happens?
Yes, we have
it's wonderful. Yep.
We have champagne, French champagne, of course. We
Of
have.
course.
It's a really, you know, gourmet buffet, and I think for almost 3 hours, people spend Sunday afternoon, you know, in a really intimate and different.
It's a wonderful,
concept.
wonderful concept. When you have different players playing, do they bring in different groups of people to hear?
Of
there are
course,
different
we
draws?
try it. You know, it's every third Sunday of each month.
Uh-huh.
It's from October till May, so we already had 2.
Yeah.
And every Sunday of the concert series, we have different kind of. I want to diversify. You know.
So if everyone comes to everything, they hear different things.
Totally, different composer, different, you know, combinations
Yeah.
of artists and instruments. Next, the next one will be with clarinet. It's
great.
it will be Mozart string.
But then do you still play the piano?
No, there is no
you
piano.
don't play the piano?
No, for this one there is no piano. My next performance will be in January with that baritone singer from New York, and it will be the Winterreise from Schubert, which is one of my favorite.
So will that be the whole program? He'll sing the whole program?
Yes, it's a huge one.
long?
It's a complete leader's cycle, and it's more than 1 hour.
Oh,
you know?
wow.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Oh, so then you rehearse with him for a long time too,
course,
I would think.
Of course,
Yeah.
it's a lot of
I think that's so exciting, and I can't wait, Francois, to come hear you.
I would love you to come. Yeah, I would
Thank
love
you
to.
so much for
Thank
being
you.
with
us. It was
us.
such a pleasure for me.
And thank you for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles today. Keep writing to 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, and email at jaquinn1@aol.com. See you next time.